Awesome. Thanks, Les. Thanks everyone for being here today. Welcome to Clay and JJ. As Les said, I'm Annakate Ross, and I'm a project manager here at Atiba. That means I work with the software team, the developers to get client projects over the finish line. I work with all kinds of different clients and all kinds of different projects, and it's a pretty neat role. So I'll also be our host for today's conversation. We have JJ Rosen, who many of you likely know. He's the Atiba founder and also a tech leader here in Nashville and beyond. JJ's been a real supporter of the startup community for just all the time that Atiba has been around, with regular mentorship through Vanderbilt, the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, lots of other organizations. We also have Atiba Ventures, which is a separate entity here at Atiba that invests and supports startups. So we can talk about that more as well. And then I have Clay Banks as well. And so Clay, as you probably read in the description, is a Shark Tank veteran, leader in the startup and entrepreneur communities. Clay's been featured in Fortune, TechCrunch, Entrepreneur. He's built 8 companies, coached more than 550 startups, launched 23 products, and he holds 3 patents. So Clay is a perfect participant to have on our discussion today. So welcome, Clay. Welcome, JJ. So Clay, I'll start with you. Before we get too far into today's topic, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also your current business ventures, what you're up to right now?
Yeah, thanks, Annakate and JJ. Thanks for having me. When you asked me to join this, I was like, wow, this is like the OGs of tech in Nashville. I think I saw you've been around for 34 years or more. And I know we're working together on a project and super excited about that. But um, there's very few people that have been in the game as long as you have, and I'm really thrilled to be on this call with everybody today. I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug pretty early. I was a sophomore at the University of Tennessee back in 2002, when Amazon was just a bookstore. We published a book, and that's where I first got my kind of entrepreneurial genes or my in my bones. And I kind of went through a handful of I think 4 startups that didn't make any revenue or barely made any revenue. Spent some time in economic development, specifically with the Haslam administration in the Department of Economic Community Development, and that's where I really got to see the efforts of back then it was the Tennessee Technology Development Council. If you remember the old days, now it's Launch Tennessee, and the network across the state of creating accelerators and programs for entrepreneurs. And the National Entrepreneur Center was kind of the model that we were using, and that's kind of where I got back into starting companies. In 2014, I was working for the state, and my business partner Alex and I were on a project together, and we both experienced break-ins in our neighborhood, and we ultimately created a door locking device that could detect and prevent home break-ins. It reported back to your mobile phone, your Alexa, your Google Nest, and that's where we got the patents that Anna Kate mentioned. Ultimately grew that company, went on Shark Tank with that company, and I sold it or sold my equity to a venture capital firm back in 2022. Since then, I've been kind of fractionally working for consumer electronics tech companies, and now with AI and with the prototyping tools and the go-to-market tools that we have now. I work a lot with tech-enabled companies on all things startup, go-to-market, scale up. So yeah, glad to be here today.
Awesome. And the name of your consulting company that you have is In Paceline, right?
In Paceline, correct.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about just you're also an ultra runner and do quite a bit in the exercise
Yeah,
community
I
as
was
well.
hoping JJ or Jay would be on the call today, to talk a little bit. I got a race this weekend, but yeah.
Yeah, I love the name of In Paceline. I was reading a little bit about the background on that. You want to share what the origin story of that is?
I'll be glad to. So I was getting into triathlon. I signed up for an Ironman race, Ironman Texas in 2021, and that spring I signed up to prepare for that race. I signed up for an 80-mile Hencappy race in Chattanooga, and I'd never been a cyclist. I'd never been around cyclists before. We get to the starting line, we take off, and I get to the first aid station, and there's about a dozen or so riders just hanging out at the aid station. They're eating food, they're laying in the grass, they're soaking up the morning sun. And I'm like, well, they're not here to race. Obviously, they're just here to have a good time. Well, I get back, I get some food. I get back on the bike, and I don't know, 5 or 6 miles down the road, and that group of 12 passes me like I'm sitting still. And I'm like, what in the world are they doing? How much? I think they didn't look like that much of a better athlete, if I'm being honest. I'm like, how in the world did they pass me that fast? I get to the next aid station, and there they are again, just hanging out, just chilling in the grass. And ultimately, I realized they're riding in a peloton in a pace line, using each other to draft off of each other to conserve energy. And if we think about a business, it really operates in the same way. And I wanted to kind of bring in and incorporate some of my endurance passion into some of the coaching I do with businesses. So that's why I called it In Paceline.
I love that so much. It's so descriptive and just really seems very pure for what you're doing and also your life experience too. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the topic for today's webinar. So it's can AI be your tech co-founder, which is a little bit hyperbolic, a fairly dramatic statement. But what do you think? Let's just start right off at the top. Can AI be your tech co-founder, Clay?
I don't want to spoil the whole conversation, but AI I'm going to kind of set the theme here. AI is
Right.
not your technical co-founder. AI is your technical amplifier. And I'll kind of go into a lot more on that, but
Hmm.
I believe in human connection. I believe in relationship, and I believe in teams. And ultimately, if we're trying to be that, I know there's a lot of conversation out there. I think Chris Sacca might have put this out that eventually, here soon, we're going to have a solo founder reach $1 billion business. And I think that will happen. I really do. But it's not going to be me, and it's not going to be who I coach, and I'm not going to chase that kind of ego. Not saying that Chris Sacca has the ego. I'm saying that if I'm chasing the mindset of I'm going to be the first in the world to build a solo $1 billion business, I think I'm going about it for the wrong reasons. And if I look back across the companies that I've been involved in, it's really the relationships that we formed through the good times and the bad times. And I wouldn't trade those for any kind of financial success that AI could theoretically bring. So I'm all about team, and I'm all about building relationships. And I mean, like hopefully everybody on this team has had a success moment in their business. And when the team hits that success moment, I mean, you're fist bumping, you're high fiving, you're cheersing. I mean, are you going to do that with your AI? And is that really where we're going? So I'm going to say no. AI cannot be your technical co-founder. So we'll go into
Okay.
that deeper though.
Yeah, we definitely will. And JJ, would you share with the group how this idea originated, kind of where you came up with this concept?
Yeah, I think obviously with all the AI traction stuff going on, um, it's making all of us think about what roles AI can play, um, on different levels. And The way I thought about this topic as an idea is I'm working with someone right now as the tech co-founder and she's great, very, extremely smart person. Uh, can make her way, not a coder, but can kind of can learn this stuff. And we're together using AI quite a bit to get this off the ground. And so I started thinking to myself, like, okay, does she really even need me in this as the techie in this partnership? And so that's kind of what it spawned is from a real life situation.
I love that. Well, Clay, tell us about some of the capabilities of AI and do you think AI could provide the biggest lift in the early stage company building?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully people that are on this call and the type of persona that's listening in, they're pretty much already caught up in using AI, whether it's to its full capacity or to even just kind of an introductory, elementary level. I think we first have to go back is like what are we're starting a business really for the purpose of like cash flow and return on investment. And if that's the reason, AI can certainly help amplify that and speed up the 0 to 1 process way faster than we used to be able to even 5 years ago. But if we look at like AI and it's a tool and all things that it enables us to do, we still have to understand the fundamentals of business. If we look at last year's tax filings with the federal government for businesses, 82% of businesses fail because of no cash flow. So right out of the gate, 82% of businesses that file a tax return go out of business because no cash flow. And if can AI fix that? Possibly. Can AI be a resolution to that? But we have to build for cash flow first. 54% of the businesses that recorded a tax filing last year, 54% of them lost money, even though they were bringing in some sort of other income to support, whether it be investment income or whatever, to support the business to continue forward, but they're still reporting a loss. So 54% of all businesses last year reported a loss. So, but 46% of those that actually recorded a profit made less than $48,000 last year. So half of the profitable businesses made less than 48,000. I think we're going to see AI amplify what I call entrepreneurs getting into the market because the barrier of entry is now way lower than it used to be from building a prototype and launching a product, doing customer discovery, doing all the things that AI can do. And I think if we do not design the business first with core fundamentals, you're going to be one of those that file the loss of the business on your tax return. So,
Hmm. Was
um,
that term you just used, entrepreneur, like a
yeah,
single
one like
entrepreneur?
uh, entrepreneur, people who fantasize about uh, being an entrepreneur, the
Oh,
lifestyle entrepreneur has, and it's a total a lie. Those who have done it before, done it multiple times, will echo that sentiment. But I saw a stat this week actually. LinkedIn has like a data report they put out. It's called an economics graph. And last year, they saw a 69% increase in people who added the word founder to their title. Okay. That's nearly tripled since 2022. So why is that? Is because I think AI is enabling people to see the potential of getting to market with a lower barrier of entry than we had before, right?
hmm
And for people like JJ who've been around building software and tech for 34 plus years, understand the fundamentals. They understand the fundamentals of the business economics and the user experience. Uh, and I think without those fundamentals, AI is a really great tool, but I think we're still limiting our success being a profitable business.
Yeah, definitely. Um, in terms of like the tooling, are there some, just in your business now, are there some ways that you are using AI that is helping save you time that you could share with the group?
For sure. First and foremost, content creation.
Mm.
Right out of the gate, I publish a weekly newsletter. I publish daily on Substack. That's where I kind of start to kind of form just where I throw out some notes and kind of get my ideas going. And I'm not a writer, but I feel like I can tell the story. So I'm using it really for a faster way to tell stories.
Hmm.
One cool thing I've started, I'm about 3 weeks into. I'm using a handful of cold lead gen tools, SmartSend.ai, Goji Berry, Hunter.io, um, sourcing that with LinkedIn, Happenstance to identify a ideal customer profile that meets my ideal customer profile, find where they are creating profiles on like WeFunder, Fundable, profiles like that. And I can search those, have agents search those tools to kind of warm up that customer through a series of what I call proof, process, promise, pain. showing proof that I have done and been in their shoes before, and I've come out through the transformation process. I have a clean, easy, simple to follow process. I have a promise if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. And then I reinforce that pain of how much longer are you willing to continue going down this path, being stuck as a founder, not growing the business that you want to grow. So all that to say, I'm using AI to automate the top of funnel acquisition. Now the middle funnel acquisition, I've been building kind of the old-fashioned way, and I think the middle funnel has to be a reinforcement of confidence when someone comes in from the top of the funnel. So all that to say is, yes, I'm using AI in a lot of different ways, and still, I try to surround myself with people like JJ who teach me about new tools and faster ways to do things. So always looking for new innovative ways to approach the
Awesome. And
problems or build on a process that I'm already doing.
yeah, like process optimizations, make maybe filling in the gap someplace or reducing waste, improving efficiency, that kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, just speaking of the content creation that you mentioned, I will give Clay a great plug for his Substack. There's some really awesome content on there, and it's compelling and easy to read through. And I mean, I am not a entrepreneur, and it got a lot out of it, to be honest. I was enjoying reading some of your pieces, so we can drop a link into that here at the end as well. JJ, I was going to ask you too, with the startup founder that you mentioned working with, what are some ways you all have been using AI, just from a generic perspective?
Yeah, so I definitely would echo Clay what you're saying about the general theme around this. That and it's not just co-founder; it's like a lot of roles. It's I've not found it to be like, oh, you can just replace someone. It's more been an amplifier or an assistant, essentially, to speed things up drastically. And then also just in that one example I was talking about this little this startup that I'm working on outside of my normal day job at Atiba. There's uh, there's a degree of Clay, I guess you kind of put it like it's not just about like money part. A business just isn't about money. I mean, there's a joy to doing this. Like it's a little bit of a science business, like there's numbers and best practices and that, but there's also a big part of it that's subjective, that's an art, and it's really gratifying and fun to be, working with someone that you're being creative together. All that I'm feeling just to echo everything Clay was saying, I found the exact same thing. The main things it's helping us on, I would agree with Clay, content creation research, uh, just a quick way to do research and to try to poke holes in the idea that you have. And then the main thing in terms of the technical aspect of like the tech co-founder part is, we're able to get to MVP or maybe even just prototype, much faster than we were a year ago. And it's still taking some technical skill and some back and forth, but it's much lower cost and faster with that. So using these various vibe coding tools as well as just AI, heavier tools in general, just that are raw into the code. Those have been a tremendous help in getting us to a little bit of a proof of concept faster than we would have, in the past.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And let's look at one of the questions we have dropped in the Q&A over here. Clay, I'll read it for the group, and then we'd love to hear your answer on this. But the question was from Robert Ashworth. And since you described AI as an amplifier rather than a co-founder, what's the smartest way for a founder to communicate a complex system they're building with AI, with AI support without overwhelming people with technical details?
Let me think through this like before I come up with immediate response. It's gonna like first and foremost, startups, and I'm gonna put this through the lens of startups under $5 million in annual revenue and teams of under 5 people building something that didn't exist or a brand. And if that answer would be different if I answered it for a big established multi-billion-dollar company. Startups are an emotional endurance sport, and it's like I frame this a lot. Like with when it comes to like endurance sports, there's this common language that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And as the founder of a startup, I think as the CEO and the leader of that startup, you have to lead people. And if AI is going to be a central platform, a central command, or a central operating system, then the other people involved have to be on board with the execution and learning and the adaptiveness that AI brings with it. It's adapting every day. You all know it. It's moving faster than any of us could have ever predicted. And you see all the new tools coming out every single day. So if you're not a good leader, that's going to cause your team to start chasing rabbits. What's the new cool in tech for automating Instagram posts? What's the new vibe coding tool to launch this kind of app, right? We see them come up every single day now. And if you're not a good leader of people, they're going to get distracted chasing all those new shiny new objects that are popping up. Did I answer the question? I think it came out of the QA, but I think like I've got to think first and foremost, like, yes, we're gonna like if I'm leading an AI, if I'm leading a company now, yes, we're going to be AI first, but it's still a tool that we use. It's not going to um, uh, replace anybody on the team necessarily. It's going to make our teamwork better.
And that's a good segue into the next question, like the skills that you would recommend founders need today that they maybe didn't need 5 years ago.
Um, say, look, you got to sell something to somebody to make money. Sales has to take place. Just because you can build it or you can use AI to build it faster doesn't mean you can sell it. So there still has to be a skill set of learning how to sell and overcome objections and deliver the service. So first and foremost, you've got to learn sales. AI can accelerate market segmentation. It can accelerate customer discovery. It can accelerate like technical prototyping and financial modeling and all the cool things that it can do, but you still have to create the vision for it, and your team has to be aligned with that vision, right? You still have to have a sense of core values that you operate from and your team operates from. You still have to have trust, and show your consumer that level of trust and confidence. You've got to be able to understand, like as a founder, like conflict resolution, all the things that we still have to have to run a business. Um, like AI is just a tool that overlays all these other fundamentals.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing a lot of like through my work at the National Entrepreneur Center, I also coach student entrepreneurs, high school student entrepreneurs at the Williamson County Innovation Center, and I'm a handful of mentors. I work with almost 400 companies a year, all in the pre-go-to-market state, um, in that mostly pre-revenue state, and I'm seeing some really cool prototypes being made, but I mean, very, very few of them have actually started to monetize them in a way and build a team to 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 build an enterprise
Hmm.
that's scalable. Now, will that speed up for sure, but they're still lacking the fundamentals it takes to go build an enterprise.
Hmm.
And let's be honest, most people that are starting a company have an exit plan. Going into it, let's say they hope they do. That exit plan is to get the return on the capital and the emotional toll that they put into the business for whether it be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right? Um, AI only companies have a very limited enterprise value. Um, Enterprise value is built on repetitive cash flow. It's built on predictable cash flow and repeatable. So it's repeatable and predictable cash flow. And you have to have systems and teams. So as we build toward enterprise value, yes, AI can be a layer, but we have to have all the other mechanisms or the fundamentals in place to build enterprise value. That's where the founder is going to get their return. Because if it's just built on AI alone, that means the acquirer could theoretically go replicate it, copy it, and do it over just as fast.
Yeah, that's a good point. JJ, let me ask you a question. We talk a lot about at Atiba, our company slogan or motto, so to speak, is half geek, half human. You can see it on the background here and on the couple Zoom backgrounds. Um, the concept behind that, of course, is we speak tech, of course, but we can also humanize it and make it easy to understand for clients and customers. How are you thinking about the human side now, JJ, with the rise of AI and the automation of so much? Has the human side of things within the context AI kind of changed for you or amplified in any way?
Um, well, let's see. Clay, I think this is what you were kind of saying, but uh, I I see actually as AI improves, it makes the technical side a little bit easier. Um, the human side is now even more important. And so like to Clay's example, like let's say we're building a product. So maybe one day, we can go in and say, uh, build me Facebook, build me a replica of Facebook that I want to, and like that is hard to do. That's quite an accomplishment, and there's technical challenges, and it's hard to estimate and determine what features you want. But when it comes down to it, the make or break is going to be the business side, the human side. So the sales, the marketing, who you hire, who you work with, what decisions you make. And I felt that's generally been the case for before AI for startups. So, like oftentimes as techies over this past, decades, like internally, we've thought of product ideas. And when it comes down to it, if it can be built, like in your, having some coders, you can build it. So the differentiator is really all the stuff around that. And so I think the half geek, half human, the human part is actually, oddly enough, at least to me, becoming more and more important. And that's not to say that the tech part is like a commodity. And I don't, it's still hard to do. And even with AI tools, it takes some work to build a product or a SaaS or whichever you're working on. But yeah, I think the make or break will be more human. And so Clay, I think that's kind of what you're saying about startups. But that's what I've seen just in general in business.
Yeah, I say AI accelerates outputs, but humans accelerate outcomes.
Yes.
It's the team,
Yes.
it's the dynamic of the relationships and trust and confidence that your team has and your customer has with your team that makes it a scalable enterprise.
Hmm. Let's talk about some practical use cases that you've both seen. And Clay, I'll start with you. Can you share some real world examples where AI has helped accelerate a product launch?
Oh yeah, I'll give you a few actually. All right, this morning I coach every Thursday morning. I coach high school students, and they are building an edtech tool to help teachers build curriculum and test against the curriculum on an effort-based learning a, a, a depth of context. It's brilliant. It's really actually really brilliant. And they have prototyped this faster and better than any adult entrepreneur I've invested or coached in. They are using a suite of services, Figma and some vibe coding tools, Replit, and some others. and they're already in a customer discovery phase with their biology teacher. And we had a group of school, call them school officials today, and teachers watching them do a demo this morning, and they were blown away. And these are high school students, and normally what they showed today would have taken a good 3 to 500K in development costs. Now these two young men are technical minded. Okay.
Hmm.
I want to go back. I am not a technical co-founder. I do not know how to code. I do not know how to engineer. Um, and they have now got this really cool prototype, but they don't have the storytelling, the business acumen, the relationships, the confidence, the trust that you have to overlay on top of all of that. Right? And so all that to say is, yes, that there's one specific case that I mean, as of this morning, that is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yep.
And which you mentioned some of the tools that they were using, but do you think that it has anything to do with that they're younger and maybe these tools are a little easier for them to embrace?
That's a good question. Yes, I've after working with these high school students for about 5 years, they do embrace the application of technology different than I'm 44. Than I grew up before the internet, um, and got to see its full evolution. Um, that's all they know, and it is amazing to see them operate, but they operate from a sense of fearlessness. They operate from a sense of no ego. Okay, a lot, and guilty as charged. We older adults who have climbed some corporate ladder have gotten somewhere in their corporate life. They have a badge of honor that they want to carry around in some ego, right? And when they go and they branch out to go start a company, that ego gets dropped to rock bottom because it's way harder than they think. And they don't publish or put out what they're making or trying to build, where these students don't have that ego yet built into them. And they just publish, and they'll go up and talk to strangers at a coffee shops and pitch their ideas because they're fearless. And
Hmm.
that fearlessness gives them the real world market feedback that they need to adapt. I am really bullish. I've created a nonprofit to take corporate funds in Williamson County and invest into high school students' businesses. I'm really bullish on this generation because of what they can do with tech and their fearlessness before they go and like climb all these corporate ladders. So
And when we were talking about like what skills do founders need now that maybe they didn't need 5 years ago, I hadn't thought about something like fearlessness, but I think that probably would be on the list because there's so much exposure now. There's so many options and so many tools and so much noise, you really can't get kind of trodden down by that and you've got to keep going. So that's a great way to summarize that.
yeah, I mean, putting yourself out there is when you actually start putting out to the world what it is you're building. It's a weird, awkward space. Your friends will verbally encourage you, but they are not going to be your first customers. Your family's going to say, "Oh, this is the best thing in the world," but the market is the one who judges, and it's a humbling experience. And a lot of times I see a lot of founders who have really good ideas. They sit back, they watch Instagram, they watch TikTok and go, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. But then when it actually comes to doing it, it's way harder than they thought. And they're up here in their head going, I can't hit publish because it's not to my standard of where my ego sits, right? And they delay and they delay and they delay. And where these students, this younger generation, there's no ego to overcome, and they just publish.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's really a great observation uh, about younger generation and humility. And I think that is a great trait to have. And, hopefully we all try to kind of keep that no matter what's, if we've, had some wins, over the years. It can be sometimes hard. But I've been going this thing at Owen at Vanderbilt, where they have undergrad students come and do pitches. And there's like, a few of us that are all a little older, kind of listening to them. And it has been super impressive to see because it's hard to get up in front of a group of people and, talk about your idea. And there's always, your friends and family. I guess it's that was that book, The Mom Test, always comes around. It's an interesting book about, you kind of get validation from your mom and people you ask, but you don't know that doesn't mean people are going to actually buy this. And so having that humility, I think enables you to get true, real feedback. So I think that's a great point, and I think it's super interesting in even younger kids in high school, because I can see that too. That'll be kind of what the things that take off.
Hmm.
For sure. Well,
Um,
I want to touch on one thing. And can
yeah.
you ask like what tools I'm currently using or some use cases? So I have a 10-year-old daughter, and they love watching YouTube shorts. Um, and as I'm watching them consume content, I'm noticing that about every 3 seconds, the camera angle will change, or there'll be a sound interjected into about every 3 seconds. So watch now, go back and watch any good content. You'll, even if it's a movie, the camera angle or the audio will change about every 3 seconds. Okay. So as I'm watching this and trying to get people to watch my content longer, for the purpose of engagement and getting ranked higher for engagement, I'm pushing my long form content into some AI tools and having it automatically insert sounds and camera angles or graphics every 3 seconds. It's like this dopamine hit that has to hit every, to stay engaged. And
Hmm.
it so I'm taking like how I'm watching Gen Alpha, my daughter, and how they consume content and how they share content, but also like how do we design for that in the businesses that I'm involved in so that that content resonates better than my competitors. And there's some
Hmm.
really cool AI tools out there that can do that as well. So uh, for like cutting up and chopping up content, but
Hmm. That goes back to content creation, another
yeah.
lens on content creation. But yeah, it's a great use of the tools. JJ, can you share a couple real world examples where AI has helped accelerated either a product launch or just a business or any clients that we've worked with?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So, we worked with uh, since I guess I got into this like Clay, like maybe a little both of us, like it was like we were born like before the web. Um, and and when I first got into this in the early 90s, the web was not a thing. And so then the .com thing came along. And that's what was really cool for software developers doing because you got to work behind the scenes at all these cool startups and that was I really love that. It is intense, like the all-nighters and all that. But from the business standpoint, from the human side, not so much the techie side, you could kind of observe like what worked or what didn't, and try to like get some lessons learned from all that. And one thing is this whole idea of trying to, and this is all subjective, it can depend on the situation, but trying to give yourself a long ramp. In other words, like if you burn through all your cash, or if you quit your job and you have another job within 6 months, if your startup doesn't succeed, that can be tough when you're running on fumes. And so I've always been one that in a startup world, like my own money, if I'm doing investing in a startup or working in a startup, is trying to be very, very lean, especially at the beginning, to give yourself that long ramp and give yourself a chance to fight another day. And so the tools we're seeing with clients, there's been, I think, maybe 4 or 5 clients where we met with them. They had an idea. We estimated it out, and it was just basically not practical for them. It was just going to be too expensive to build this, and so some of them, went other places. But I think 3 just, kind of accepted that and said, "Okay, I guess this is just not practical. I can't get this off the ground." And so this past year, we've been calling those folks back and basically saying, well, now we think we can do this for less and it'll take us less time, less cost. And in some cases, it's been, especially with a pure MVP, it's been like, a third of the original estimate that we had. And so uh, there's 3 clients right now that's exactly what happened. That we went back and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Now I guess let's give it a try. This is worth. I can afford to do this, and the ROI seems reasonable, and the risk profile is now not quite as scary." Uh, and so a lot of those tools for us are purely on the technical and coding side.
Mhm.
Uh, some of it's been the vibe coding, some of it's been GitHub Copilot and Cursor and various tools like that. But that's what I'm seeing from the tech part, where you can really give a startup room to breathe, so they can invest the rest of their time or whatever capital they have in the things that Clay was mentioning, around sales and marketing and getting
Mm,
revenue.
absolutely. Well, Clay, let's wrap this up with some advice for founders. Is there, let's do both, a takeaway that you really want folks to take away from this discussion, but also any mistakes you've made that you'd really want to um, put out in the world and make sure people maybe don't make the same mistake you did.
Oh man, we could do a whole other decades of podcasts on mistakes. Um, I think that the theme here I want to get across is that if you want to build a scalable enterprise, it's going to take a team. It's going to take people. It's going to take an uh, emotional marathon, and it's an endurance sport. So we've got to surround ourselves first with the right people. And you've heard the saying, you're the common denominator of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? So first and foremost, we've got to build a really solid team and use the AI at its full capacity and have that team using the AI. So like first want to say that, you've got to surround yourself with people that have different skill sets and different networks than you have. That's probably the biggest thing I think I have to take away here is that you cannot build this company on your own. I have built companies on my own, and they're in they're in the category that didn't make revenue. Let's put it that way. The ones that I have built teams or really good um, contractors with, those are the ones that have gotten to market and been something. My first company that I sold, it took us 4.5 years to get our product to market. It took us about 6 years to get to 1 million in revenue. We had a team, I think its max capacity at 13 with about 60 contractors. Um, Fast forward, I can now take all those lessons learned and condense that 6 years into about 6 months. Um, but it takes the team. It really does. And just because AI can do a lot of cool things, that doesn't mean you have the fundamentals to build an enterprise.
Mhm. Let's look at another question that we have from the audience here. This is from Caleb. So, Clay and JJ, I found that AI tools are often very exciting and feel like an amplifier, but that feeling is quite subjective and qualitative. What types of metrics can or do you use to measure and quantify the impact of AI in your business and also in product development to know that it is actually amplifying?
You want to take this one, JJ, or you want me to take it? That's a good question.
Yeah, Caleb, that's a
Honestly,
tough one. Yeah. Either one, Clay, if you want to
I,
start, I can add on to it.
so um, I have this tool that it's a profit loss calculator, right? Like we've got to first understand the fundamentals of profit loss. Income on the top, expenses on the bottom, how much profit's left over at the end of the day, right? It doesn't get any more simpler than that. Okay, so if we are paying an expense for something or someone to do something, and we add on an application, an AI application, call it 20 bucks a month, 50 bucks a month, whatever, that's adding to the expense line. But is that tool adding or replacing some other expense or speeding up someone's workflow to produce income at the top of the profit loss? Like, so I have a calculator that I use. It's literally a fundamental like a spreadsheet. It's like a kindergartner built it, but it's a contribution margin calculator that I use to track stuff like this. And ultimately, I'm looking at the two basic fundamentals: customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost me to acquire a customer in relationship to lifetime value, right? Of the customer. So like how much money is the customer worth to me over their lifetime in 12 or 24 months? These little tools that we're using go into either increasing or reducing my cost of acquisition or increasing or reducing my customer lifetime value. So if I can't directly contribute the cost of these tools to one side of those equations, it's a no-go for me. It's that simple.
JJ, you want to add to that?
Yeah, yeah. So basically the same thing, Clay, you're saying is what at least has been my vision of this. But actually, it's almost unrelated to just AI tools and expenses. It's really, for better or for worse, I've been applying that mindset to like every expense, you know, since I got started, basically. And so the way I figured it is, in a business, whether you're a startup or a large enterprise, uh, every expense should have, a fairly clear or obvious ROI. Like, hey, if we pay for this or we spend time on it, whether expense is time or money, there's a reasonable chance that'll generate more profit for us. So at least for me, this is way before AI. So like, and again, it's kind of sad in some ways, my cautiousness with this, but like if I'm gonna buy a new desk, um, or a new office chair, I'll think, okay, if I spend $100 on this, is that likely to increase my productivity? So thus increases profits, or and if I'm not really sure, and I can't easily measure it, I'll usually kind of back off of it and think about it more. And then the other thing I've tried to do aside from ROI is to measure risk reduction, I guess is maybe a risk mitigation. And so the idea would be that, if let's say again, unrelated to AI, if we decide we're going to uh, uh, get a better backup service for our data that we have, and it's going to cost X amount, it may not necessarily create a direct more profit, but it will reduce risk and let you sleep at night better. So basically, not just with AI, but any expense, I kind of at least think of, does it have a clear ROI or does it have a clear reduction in risk, cause a clear reduction in risk? And so Caleb, to your question, that's kind of, I think that goes with any tool like, AI or other.
Makes sense. Thanks, JJ. Well, Clay, any last parting words you want to share with us or anything about your cohort that you wanted the group to know?
I don't want to make this a sales presentation, but I just want to say like surround yourself with other founders in community, and that's what I'm trying to build. Like I've been in that lonely 3 a.m. spot, like trying to grind it out on my own, and that is a lonely place that you don't need to be. There's other people going through startup world that you can surround yourself with, and you can break through barriers much faster. And AI cannot replicate that human to human community connection. As I said earlier, AI can accelerate outputs, but it cannot accelerate outcomes. So like I want to be like super clear, like we cannot like don't think that AI, hopefully you didn't come to this going, can I be that solo billion-dollar founder? Because I think that's a race to the bottom emotionally. I think it's a race to the bottom spiritually, and you're going to find yourself in a mental state that is not healthy if that's your goal. So like the human part of business is it also makes it one of the toughest, but it makes it like where the worth really is at the end of the day. We're built for relationships.
Absolutely. Wise words. Thank you. And thanks for joining us today, Clay. Les, would you remind the group what we'll be following up with after this?
Yes, everyone will receive a recording of this webinar, an invitation to the AI readiness pre-assessment, and then our AI guide.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We appreciate our guests, and appreciate all the participants. So everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you.
See
Thanks,
y'all.
Anna Kate. Thanks,
Thanks,
JJ.
guys.
Yeah.
You
See
guys.
y'all.